Collins is a White House correspondent for the Daily Caller. She's new to the beat, and she joins us now. Caitlin, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So there was this amazing moment in January. So Sean Spice, the new press secretary, asked the first question not to the AP reporter, but to the reporter from the New York Post. All of a sudden, there was this uproar on Twitter. Reporters who literally weren't even born when Barack Obama was elected were complaining about the breach of tradition. Why the resentment?
The press is throwing a royal tantrum because they can't control what the country is talking about. For the last 8 years, they've all decided what the question should be, and they've all gone in there and asked the same question. And now that they're not being called on, they can't control what the news is about, and it's driving them crazy.
So you show up there right after the inauguration. You haven't covered the White House before. You don't work at the Boston Globe or the New York Times. What kind of reception did you get?
It's definitely a little tense, but I'm not really there to impress them. I'm there to ask the questions my readers want answered, and I'm not there to ask what they want me to ask. I don't get the questions that CNN wants. I don't get the questions that MSNBC wants. I ask what my readers want me to ask, because outside in the real world where the other 300 million people live, they don't care about, personnel issues that MSNBC is asking.
So you actually took some heat from other reporters when you, at a press conference, at the moment when Mike Flynn was having all his troubles, National Security Advisor, you asked a question to the podium about what the foreign policy challenges facing the country are. And what was the response to that?
It was very heated. I got a lot of criticism on Twitter. A lot of people came up to me and asked if the White House told me what to ask, which is offensive. And I asked a big picture question about national security and who we're going to get into a war with next. And that matters more to real people than a personnel question of who's working in the White House. No one will remember Mike Flynn's name by next year.
I think that's totally fair. You're obviously pretty immune to the criticism of your peers, but what effect does it have, that kind of groupthink or that enforced conformity, on other reporters there?
It's definitely not a good mix for that, because then other people feel pressured to ask what everyone else is asking. They look up to someone on their left and they're asking about, wiretapping, so they ask about wiretapping as well. But the point of 75 reporters being in that briefing room is that we all ask different questions.
Right.
If we all go in there and ask the same question 10 different ways, what does that accomplish? Who does that serve?
So the president has attacked the press intensely, like no other president has ever gone after the press like this. What does that do to the reporters covering the briefing every day?
People are a little hysterical about his criticism. Yes, he hates the press. Yes, he's very vocal about it. But what president has not hated the press? We make their lives harder, and they all hate us. They may not all talk about it, but they definitely hate us.
Yes, they do.
So, but people are taking it really personally, and you shouldn't take the president's criticism personally. It shouldn't affect your reporting, but you can tell when you read the New York Times and CNN that it does affect their reporting, and that's not what should happen. I don't take my cues from the president. I report on him. I don't report to him.
So you think that there's a personal element to this? They don't like him because he criticized.
Because he calls them out by their names, and they don't like that, and then they get a lot of heat on Twitter, and then it makes them resent him. Not for his policies and not for not following through on his campaign promises, but for who he is as a person. And that's not your job. Your job is not to get your feelings hurt.
No, that's exactly right. Twitter seems to play a huge role in the attitudes of White House reporters.
It does. It feeds their egos. They like to know how many people follow them, who's praising them. You should not pay attention to anything anyone says on the internet, though.
That is pathetic. Do you see people checking Twitter in the briefing?
Constantly. Everyone's updating it constantly. They're tweeting. It's a big part of it. But that's understandable. The president uses Twitter a lot. It's a new medium that everyone is, refascinated with Donald Trump being in the White House.
Boy, I'm sorry. I don't like that the president uses Twitter. I don't like that reporters use Twitter. I just think it's weird. But I guess I'm not in charge. Kaitlan Collins, thanks for joining us, of the Daily Caller. Full disclosure, I helped found the Daily Caller, but no longer have an editorial role there, sadly. Remember Donna Brazile? Last fall, DNC emails published by WikiLeaks revealed that Brazile, while working as a CNN contributor, that's right, a television contributor, helped rig the Democratic primary by forwarding debate questions to the Hillary Clinton campaign. Now, at the time, Brazile refused to admit her complicity. She even suggested the emails had been forged, in a pretty famous back and forth with Megyn Kelly, you may remember. Well, today, in an essay for Time magazine, which still exists, Brazile finally admitted she is guilty.